Thursday morning. Hope everybody's having a great week. As you guys know, it is the fourth quarter. We're jumping into Medicare season. You got AEP coming around the corner in about a week. So we want to fill you guys with a bunch of Medicare knowledge so you guys are well equipped going into this season from a Medicare Advantage side to a Medicare supplement side, what you're facing. And so without further ado, Jess.
All right, give me 1 second because I am trying. Apparently, I've never shared my screen with what?
It's a top right-hand corner.
No, I know that, but it's mad at me and it's telling me no. Let's see here.
Maybe it's an AI thing.
I don't know what it is. Let's see here. It's battling me. Okay. No, not leave. Oops. Today.
There it is.
No, that's somebody else's screen. That is not my screen.
Deanna.
Okay.
Jess, email me your slides.
Hang on. Wait a minute. I got it. I think. Can you see my stuff?
No.
I don't got it.
Sorry, I was trying to test it out, so.
Yeah, it's something where it's like, oh, you don't have appropriate permissions. Bear with me, Jeffy. I've got to, for some reason, attachments don't always send out of. So I'm one of the people that kept Zoom. I don't know if you could tell or not.
If they're in your Dropbox, I could always show them too for you.
Let's see. Let's see. No. All right. There you go. And it should. Yeah, hang on. I'm also going to try to security. Can everybody else put themselves on mute?
Yeah. Someone's shaking a cup or something.
So here we go. That's
all right. We're in business.
Okay. Yeah, this is weird. I've just got to figure this out later. It is not a right now problem. Okay. So I'm going to kind of look through. I'm actually going to click through these on my side, Jeff. You can go ahead to the next slide. But basically what we're going to talk about today is Medicare. I will be as direct as I can possibly be with you. If you cannot talk intelligently and informatively about Medicare, you are wildly up the creek, okay? Because the big thing that we do at the end of the day is retirement benefits, okay? And Medicare is the single unifying thing that everyone eventually has in common with Medicare. And it is the gaps that exist within Medicare that we, with short-term care, cancer, hospital indemnity, fill, okay? So if you can't speak to this, you immediately lose credibility. And this is also truly a great way to get in the door, okay? And a lot of states, and Texas is one of them, have retirement plans, right? So down here, we have TRS. I have a multitude of slide decks that are built specifically for TRS and Medicare and walking through what that looks like with retirees. I have proposals that outline and compare things, and specifically that compare for our spouses a $205 premium to, $130, $150 premium with lower out-of-pocket costs. That is very often something that people need to understand because they don't have a baseline understanding. And it's a great way to get in the door. Okay. And so, kind of looking at who can get Medicare, right? It is US citizens, legal residents, 65 and older. Occasionally, you'll run into somebody younger than 65 that has a disability of some sort. And sometimes you'll see folks who are really any age and they've got a diagnosis of end stage renal disease or ALS. They are also eligible for Medicare benefits. Okay. And when you sign up, and are you going through the slides, Jeff? There you go. Keep going. Next one. As far as when you can sign up for Medicare, okay, you've got 3 months before you turn 65 and 3 months after you turn 65. Anytime you operate outside of that window, you are going to risk something called late enrollment penalties, okay? And this is something that I get questions about all the time. Hey, Jess, I'm turning 65 in March. When can I sign up? You want to start signing up in December, January, February, March, about 90 days out. Okay. And then next slide, Jeff. They're going to ask, well, how do I enroll? And I personally, Jeff, focus, slide. They're going to ask, next slide. There we go. How do we enroll? And you can go online. And I always take folks directly to Medicare.gov. And if you click through, it'll send you to the Social Security website. Sometimes that confuses folks because what happens is they go, well, I thought I was doing Medicare. You are, okay? Medicare is administered by Social Security, all right? And so what you'll see is you need to go online through the Medicare website, which is ultimately going to route you over to Social Security. You can also go to a local Social Security office and sit down with somebody if that's what you prefer. And you can call the Social Security Administration. And all of those are going to work out great. Just get that process started 3 months before you turn 65. And you can go on to the next slide. Now, one of the things that everybody asks about is, do I have to? Yes. Okay. The minute that you turn 65, you want to go ahead and enroll in Part A. All right. Always, always, always. There is not a scenario where you don't advise someone to enroll in Part A the minute that they turn 65. And the reason why is that comes to them at no cost. It is part and parcel of their Social Security benefits. All right. And if you don't, the Social Security Administration will charge that person an LEP, which is a late enrollment penalty. Okay. For Part A, that is 10% of the premium, and it is the same for Part B. However, next slide, Jeff. If they are still working, and because they are still working, all right, there's a fly on my camera. If they are still working and they are on their employer's insurance, they are going to be eligible for that employer insurance. And accordingly, they do not need to go ahead and sign up for Part B. Okay. So that means that if somebody is still working, right, they're still teaching, they're still doing whatever, they have to enroll in Part A, but they can wait to enroll in Part B until they actually retire. Now, the very rare exception to that is if they somehow don't have qualified insurance. I have never in my career actually run across something like that. But 9 times out of 10, if somebody is still working and they're on employer's insurance, then they're going to go ahead and get on Part A, but not Part B. Okay. That means that when they are 67 and they've come off of, their employer coverage, then they can enroll in Part B. If they're 72 and they come off employer coverage, then they're going to be able to enroll in Part B, okay? So that is the big thing to know there, all right? And then next slide, Jeff. So basically what you're looking at when you are advising and talking about Medicare, all right, is that there are, I'm going to tell you 4 parts to this, all right? There's your Part A, which is your hospital insurance. Part B, which is considered your medical insurance. Most people refer to that as doctor and outpatient, okay? And Part D. Part D is your prescription drug coverage. A, B, and D are all that you are absolutely required to have. Most people will choose some combination of a Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage plan, or a Medigap plan, okay, to go with it. And the reason why is very simple, okay? If you look at this top piece, your Part A and your Part B, what you want to do is you want to think about that as the rock in rock, paper, scissors, okay? That is the foundation for everything else that comes after, all right? Next slide, Jeff. Actually, go ahead 2 slides down. And what you get with your Part A, okay, is going to be hospitalization insurance. That is going to be inpatient hospital coverage. And you're going to be able to see any qualified healthcare provider in the US participating in Medicare and accepting Medicare patients, which is, I've never seen a hospital that doesn't accept original Medicare, okay? The thing to know about that is that it has a $1,600 deductible that rolls for every 90 days. So for every 90 days you're in the hospital, you will get a $1,600 bill if Part A is all that you have, okay? And if you pop down one more slide, you can see some of these Part A covered services. Going to be your ORs, your recovery room, blood transfusions, some skilled nursing, semi-private rooms, hospital meals, all of these kinds of things, okay? And as you bounce down, go down 3 more slides for me, Jeff, to where it says Part B covered services. What you're going to be looking at with your Part B is going to be limited coverage of doctor and outpatient, okay? So these are outpatient chemo treatments. These are ambulatory surgeries like knee replacements, shoulder replacements, rotator cuff repairs, all of that kind of stuff. It's going to be your durable medical equipment, your CPAP machines, right? It's going to be your vaccines, your flu shot, your Hep B, all of that. Your diabetes kits, needles, all of that, ambulance services, emergency care, all of that is going to be baked in there. For 2025, okay, the premium that people have is $257 a year. If you want to go ahead to the next slide, Jeff. The premium is $185 per month, and the deductible is $257 per year. Now, if all you have is Medicare A and B, so that rock and rock, paper, scissors, right? What you have is limited hospitalization coverage, $1,600 per 90-day period, and then a $257 outpatient deductible and 80/20 coinsurance after that. 80/20 coinsurance is great as long as you're talking about a $100 bill, right? So 20% of a $100 bill is $20. Folks will pay that all day long, all right? Where it gets questionable, okay, is that 20% of a $100,000 bill is 20 grand. So what you need to go with your Medicare is something, right, that is absolutely going to cover those excess costs and to cap them. So if you want to bounce down 2 more slides, this is where we get to Part C. Okay, Part C is Medicare Advantage, and go on to slide 19, Jeff. Medicare Advantage, okay, going back to the rock, paper, scissor analogy. This works great. I use this in every client meeting where I talk about Medicare. If your red, white, and blue Medicare card that we just talked about is the rock in rock, paper, scissors, Medicare Advantage acts like paper, all right? Paper covers rock, okay? Now, you've got to be enrolled in your Part A and your Part B in order to be eligible. But the nice thing about these plans is that they're going to cap your out-of-pocket costs. The downside to these plans is that they're going to add network limitations because, again, paper's covering rock. So even though you're paying that Part B premium, which, by the way, is expected to go to $206.50 for 2026, you are not actually accessing the Medicare benefits. You are accessing the benefits of United Healthcare, Humana, Cigna, whoever happens to carry the Advantage plan that is sitting on top of it, that is the network that you're using, okay? These are plans that are offered by private insurance companies, United, Humana, Cigna, all of them, okay? And they are going to include everything that's included in Part A and B with kind of a different co-payment structure. So if you want to bounce down one more slide, you'll see that you're going to have all your A and B benefits and just a different co-payment structure, right? So what you'll see are things like for every day of hospitalization, right? You might pay $300 a day, up to a max out of pocket of $5,000. These plans come in the form of HMO, all right, where you need referrals. They also come in the form of PPOs, right, where you don't need referrals and you can go in and out of network. Most of these plans cover prescription drugs. And so that bakes in that Part D, as in drug, that we talked about earlier, okay? And some of those plans also offer additional benefits. That would be things like dental, vision, hearing, that some of the things that you hear online, right? Or when you're watching TV, those over-the-counter benefits, $40 a quarter, $100 a quarter. Some of them even give Part B give back money, meaning that they reduce the premium value that customers are paying for Part B. All right. If you bounce down one more slide, what you'll see is that the Medicare Advantage plans, the premiums vary, but I'm going to tell you a lot of them are zero premium and a lot of them are very low premiums, right? And they do have those copays. Some of them for things like outpatient surgeries, for hospitalization, are hundreds of dollars, and they all vary from plan to plan. 300 to 500 is a usual range for hospitalization. 250 to 300 is a normal range for outpatient surgery. And then doctor's visits are usually somewhere between $0 and $25, zero being for your primary care. And then sometimes you'll see them up to 50 or so for a specialist, but usually you'll see specialist visits coming in right around $20, right? You also will see deductibles. You will see deductibles for both major medical coverage, right, at the doctors. Some of these plans have no deductibles, others do. You'll also see drug deductibles, and you'll see those vary, usually between $0 and a couple $100, all right? You'll also see co-insurance rate. This is a very, very, very normal thing, okay? And so it kind of acts like private carrier insurance that folks are used to having with deductibles and max out of pockets. And I'm going to pause there for any questions that anybody has with respect to Medicare A and B and Medicare Advantage before I go on. So does anybody have any questions before I get into Medicare supplement? I see a hand raised.
Yeah,
Camus?
quickly. Yeah, it's Kamal.
There we go. I was going to say, I'm going to butcher that, and I'm sorry.
No worries. The widely varied premiums that you were just mentioning, between 300 and 400 or 200 and 300, those were the premiums, right? You weren't talking about
No. Those are the copays. The copayments will vary. Usually those are in the hundreds of dollars. Typically what I see on premiums with Medicare Advantage, on the individual market, the vast majority of those sit at a zero premium, okay? So if you think of a seesaw, and this analogy is going to become important here in a minute, what a Medicare Advantage plan does is it dumps it all the way over to one side. And it says, look, this carries a zero premium or a very low premium in most cases, all right? There are plans with expensive premiums. They're not that common, Okay, I don't think I've ever written one, to be honest with you, outside of Medicare supplement. But when something happens and you go to the hospital or the doctor's office or wherever, you're going to pay these copayments. And you're going to be on the hook for a maximum out of pocket of usually $5,000 to $9,000, depending on the plan, depending on the setup, whether it's an HMO or a PPO, those sorts of things. Okay. And so to that end, that's kind of the trade-off. All right. This is a great plan that a lot of people will think of as free. You can't say that they're free. They have zero premiums. But they think it's great because as long as they're healthy and they're just going to the doctor, they're not really expending much of a premium cost for their Medicare Advantage. Sometimes it's reducing their Part B premium. And they kind of think of it as, hey, this is my free insurance. And it is free insurance right up until the part where you need hospitalization or you need serious doctor care, surgery, and things like that. And then you're going to pay those co-payments, and those out-of-pocket costs are going to be bigger than what you would see with a supplement. Does that answer your question?
All right.
No?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Thank
There
you.
you go. Perfect. All right. Any other questions? All right. Go ahead and bounce 2 slides down for me, Jeff.
We got one more question, Nathan.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so, because obviously, and I'm sure you're getting into the plan G, but does this cover the 80/20, like the 20% coinsurance, or like how does that work?
So again, when you are talking about a Medicare Advantage, paper covers rock. All right. So when you are talking about a Medicare Advantage, wipe all of the Medicare stuff completely out of your mind. Okay. Because it covers everything that is covered by A and B, but not in the same way. So you are on the hook for the co-payment specified by the carrier, which might be United Healthcare, might be United, Cigna, etc. And you are also bound to the network associated with that private carrier, meaning you can only see United Healthcare doctors. You can only see Humana doctors, those kinds of things. And so that's the big thing to really be aware of and stay abreast of as you kind of go through the Medicare Advantage process is when you are talking about Medicare Advantage, the co-payments, the co-insurance is entirely dependent on how the plan that is covering up Medicare works. And those are all different. You can actually take a look at those, though, I will tell you, Nathan, on Medicare.gov. And when you go in to find a plan, you can punch in your zip code, doctor's offices, all these kinds of things. You can pull up every Medicare Advantage plan that's available in your service area. And you can actually see on the Medicare.gov site exactly what those co-payments and premiums look like. And that's something that you can do with your customers if they have questions about their own plan. Did that answer your question, Nathan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Katie?
And then I saw
Hold on.
Catherine.
Yeah, Katie. Come on mute.
Katie, if you're asking your question, you're muted. Katie,
All right.
going
let's go.
once, going twice. All right. So going down a couple of slides. All right. Going back to the rock, paper, scissor analogy. Okay. When you're talking about Medicare Advantage, paper covers rock. All right. When you are talking
Katie's
about
off.
a Medicare,
Katie's off mute.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I just wanted to ask a quick question. I've been told, and I'm not sure, but Medicare Advantage plans could change their plan each year.
they do change their plans each year. Networks go in and out of network. Everything changes year over year. I will tell you in my experience, and I do work with both Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplement. On average, I'm going to tell you 30-ish% of my Medicare Advantage customer book gets impacted by changes every year and have to actually go in and make changes because doctors went out of network and all this kind of stuff. So it can be more difficult to manage from a network perspective, yes. Did that answer your question, Katie?
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so going on to Medicare supplements, okay? Paper covers rock is the way those Advantage plans work, all right? The way supplements work is it's just another rock, so it comes in and it sits on top of your existing rock. Technically, if you want to get really specific, it sits behind your first rock, okay? So what happens is your red, white, and blue Medicare card, that Part A and Part B that we talked about in the very beginning, that becomes the foundation, okay? And the foundation that's very, very important is that Medicare is your primary insurer. That means that you are not beholden to any sort of network offered through United, Humana, or the Spaghetti Monster, okay? That means that Original Medicare is your network. That gives you the largest and most accessible network in the country. For some people, they love that. If you've got people who are traveling a lot, they are gone more than they are at home. They are kind of in the travel years of their life. Medicare supplements tend to be a little bit better. And the big thing to know is with Medicare sitting as your primary, your supplement, which is sometimes called a Medigap, just comes in and sits right behind it. Okay. They're going to fully cover your Part A coinsurance and your Part B coinsurance or copays. And that's going to also cover your blood transfusions, all of this kind of stuff. I typically work, you'll see 3 primary plans. All right. Your Plan F, which picks up your Part A deductible, that $1,600 every 90 days that we talked about, your Part B deductible, and your Part B coinsurance, and every single other thing. If somebody has a Plan F, as in Frank, they have no additional out-of-pocket cost except their premium. And usually the premiums here are to the tune of about, I'm going to tell you the starting point is about $135 a month. They'll go all the way up into, right now, I'm seeing them kind of cap out, usually around the high 200s. Now, your Plan F went away a few years ago. And the reason why is that it kind of stopped being, and I'm just going to kind of rotate here because the sun is coming out on the deck. It stopped being cost effective. Okay, because in addition to the Plan F, you have the Plan G. What the Plan G does is it covers every single thing the Plan F does, except the $257 deductible, which for y'all's reference is going up to $288 for 2026. Okay, it also will cover 80% of emergency care if you're traveling in a foreign country. Okay, so if you are looking at a Plan F that costs $50 more than a Plan G, you don't want to spend $600 more to save a $288 deductible, right? So most of my folks these days want to go with a Plan G. And occasionally, if they're looking to save some more premium money, then they go to a Plan N, all right? A Plan N is a plan that will actually allow them the Part B deductible and co-payments. Those co-payments go up to $20 at specialist's office and $50 at the emergency room. It also will expose them to Medicare excess charges, which, I'll be fair, I have never seen in the course of my career. It would be where a doctor just charged above the Medicare approved amount, which you just don't really see when somebody's working with Medicare and a supplement. So if you go back to that seesaw analogy, right? Medicare Advantage throws it all the way this way. This has a 0 or very low premium and hundreds of dollars in co-payments up to usually a max out of pocket of, let's call it $5,000 to work in round numbers, okay? A supplement flips it all the way back this way. And it says, well, you're going to pay $150 a month, all right? But if you go to the hospital, the doctor's office, wherever, the most that you can be on the hook for is a $288 deductible, and maybe if you've gone with a Plan N, a few co-payments, okay? So very low actual out-of-pocket costs, all right? And What plan is right for someone depends entirely on what they prioritize. Okay. If somebody tells me that the most important thing for them is having the largest network and the lowest out of pocket cost, Medicare supplement. If somebody tells me they're planning on spending 6 months in Europe a year, Medicare supplement. On the other hand, if somebody tells me I want to minimize my premium, I want a plan that includes dental and vision, and I'm really healthy, so I don't mind if it has high copayments, right? Then I'm going to look at Medicare Advantage, and I'm also going to pair them up with probably a hospital indemnity to cover some of those higher out-of-pocket costs, okay? And as you kind of go through and bounce down to slide 26. All right, Jeff, as you go through with your Medicare supplement, it is also important to know if you write a supplement, you also need to set up a prescription drug plan. Okay. Prescription drug plans for 2026 start at a 0 premium, and they will go all the way up to $100, $105, $120 a month, depending on the medications that folks need. Most of my customers, at least for the 2025 plan year, were on 0 or very low cost drug plans. I have a very small handful that were on those higher price drug plans. But you always want to make sure if you've got a customer who wants to go to a supplement, that they pick up a Part D drug plan, because just like the federal government will penalize you for late enrollment in A and B, they will also penalize you for late enrollment in Part D, and that is a thing that exists literally until you die, okay? So you always want to make sure that they have some sort of Part D coverage. If they have a Medicare Advantage, most of those plans, there are exceptions, but most of those plans do have prescription drug plans included. A handful do not, but generally speaking, they're going to be covered with the Part C. If they're doing a supplement, you just need to kind of go behind them. And again, you can look these up directly on the Medicare.gov website. So kind of with all of that said, talk to me about questions before I kind of go in to what comprehensive coverage can look like.
I have a question. I was told that we are not allowed to legally state anything in regards to Part D. Is that correct?
That depends on whether or not somebody has what's called their AHIP certification. Where are you located, Johanna?
Iowa?
Okay, so that falls to you, right, Jeff?
No.
Okay.
No.
So generally speaking, I would talk to your manager about this. Some of our agents, like I'm one of them, I'm AHIP, so my team sends me the Part D enrollments that they get. So there's probably somebody that you can send them to. You can also just direct your customers to the Medicare.gov website, and then they can do it. It's very user friendly if you are writing a Medicare supplement, that sort of thing. But yes, to your point, if you are not AHIP certified, then you do not need to be doing the Part D enrollments yourself. You just need to make sure that the customer is aware that they need it, and if they are advised to do it either through someone that you refer them to or through the Medicare.gov website themselves.
And I will say this, and for anybody that you can't, trying to think the best way to say it, you can't suggest information when it comes to Medicare Advantage. You have to ask more open-ended questions in the sense of, does this sound right? It says you have 20%. Does that sound right? You can look at it with them. Everybody has access to Medicare.gov. That's a huge resource for anybody that's non-AHIP certified that can't sell Medicare Advantage or prescription drug plans. You could sit down with your clients, find their plans on Medicare.gov, except for Texas, since it's a group coverage that, and I think each FML should have that group coverage and they can explain all that. But the opportunities when you stumble across a Medicare Advantage are huge. And I don't think a lot of us are taking advantage of that situation, because if you look through their plans on Medicare.gov, you can look at the first 5 days, the hospital co-pays for the first 5 days. Then you look at the skilled nursing, days 1 through 20, zero. What about 21 through 100? That's $300 in co-pays a day that you could fill with the Aetna hospital indemnity or the Cigna hospital indemnity or whatever. You look at on their plans the air and ground transportation. Sometimes it's a $200 copay, which you can fill that with the hospital indemnity $200 deal. Or if it's and I've seen 20% on ground and air transportation on Medicare Advantage. Guess what? That's where a MASA comes
That's
in,
massive.
right? And so, then you look at the cancer products that we have. Okay, you look at experimental treatments not covered by Medicare. What is most diagnoses with cancer doing nowadays are going to experimental treatment, which opens the door for these lump sum cancer products. So and there's tons of opportunities in there. And what I would suggest is everybody get on Medicare.gov and just type in your zip code, look at some of these plans and kind of start thinking about, okay, what products do I have that if I stumble across this client that has this plan that I could tack with them to help protect their assets so they don't have to spend out of pocket, right? And so that is the opportunity with Medicare Advantage if you're not AHIP certified. There's 3 or 4 or 5 different things in that product that you can cover their gaps with. So
That is exactly correct. And I always tell people, lead, if you've got an association, like in Texas, we have TRS. I lead with, here's what TRS covers. Here's how it works. Here's what you're paying. Okay, here's the copayment for this. Here's the copayment for that. Hey, guess what? There's nothing that exists that is covered for home health care. Nothing at all. And so what you're actually able to do then is go in and talk about Aetna's home health care plans, right? You got limited coverage for nursing home. Well, now we can talk about that. You're talking about a $500 hospitalization copayment. Now we can go and talk about hospital indemnity. And if you've got a state that has a plan that exists, my very, very strong recommendation is go and learn that plan, understand that plan forwards and backwards. Because if you don't, okay, you will get in trouble really fast because when somebody goes, well, why do I need this? You don't have an answer, right? Versus if you're sitting down and you're saying, well, as we discussed, you're going to be on the hook for $500 a day if you're in the hospital up to 7 days. That's several $1,000s. Would you rather pay that? Or would you rather have a plan that you're paying $40 a month on that covers that cost for you? And so that's really and truly where you'll see these huge gains come up with respect to Medicare. And this time of year, when your customers turn on the TV, they are inundated with 1-800 get my free Medicare stuff now. Okay. And when you are talking about that, they are going to naturally come to you with questions. They're going to naturally say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? Hey, what about this? And if you are in a state, right, where they've got excellent coverage, talk about the fact that they are on a group plan, not an individual network. I know that there are some places, I think in Georgia, where their association has absolutely excellent coverage. In Texas, the primary retirees have fantastic coverage, but the spouses, the premiums are absurd. They're over $200 a month with a $3,500 max out of pocket. It is an absolutely golden opportunity to push somebody onto a supplement if it's a spouse that's on a TRS plan in Texas. Okay, so understand what your state offers. And if you don't, I'm telling you, you are missing huge opportunities. And if you hear me talk about TRS and you go, oh, well, we have such and such offered by Wisconsin or such and such offered by Georgia or Iowa or whatever, you better know what the premium is, what the spousal premium is if it's different, what the co-payments are, what the max out of pocket is, all of those things. And if you don't know them, you need to hang up from this call and go find it, because that is going to give you the absolute keys to the kingdom. And a lot of times they're getting notices right now that says such and such has changed. right? So in Texas right now, deductibles went from 400 to 450. Is that a huge change? No, but what does that allow me to say? Hey, Sharon, this is Jess Andrews. I do the benefits for the retired school teachers. Just wanted to touch base. I know your TRS, it's got some minor changes going on next year. Just wanted to review those with you. Give me a call back, right? It's a minor change. It's a quick explanation. You've reached out, you're informing them. So now you've established yourself as knowledgeable, and you've also established yourself as helpful. And from there, we can jump into, hey, do you know about your copays? Do you know how that works? Do you know how this works? Have those conversations, and that's going to lead you into a whole litany of other things.
Let's talk about when can you change these plans? So
to that point, when you are talking about a Medicare supplement you can change anytime within the year, okay? If it is April the 7th, we can make a change for you that is effective June the 7th. Medicare supplement is the only thing that I can change anytime for any reason as long as an individual medically qualifies. Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans, those have to be changed or modified during annual enrollment, which runs October 15th through December the 7th, okay? And so that's why this time of year, everybody has insurance on the brain, because every broker in the world that does this, which is me, is on the phone nonstop. And we are constantly reaching out to folks about changes with their plans. Hey, are you aware that your plan had a service area reduction? We need to make a change, da 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 da. All of that kind of stuff. When it comes to prescription drug plans, at the end of annual enrollment, you have what you have, okay? So you're stuck at that point. For Medicare Advantage, you have one other window called open enrollment, so OEP, that runs from January 1st to March 31st. That gives you one option to make a change. If you hopped into a plan, if your agent lied to you, if you felt misled, if you didn't if you didn't like the plan for whatever reason, in January when you started using it, you can make a change in February. You get one plan change during open enrollment, okay? So if you are Medicare Advantage, you have 6 months of the year that you can make a change, running essentially from October 15th through December 7th, January 1st to March 31st. That's AEP and OEP. For prescription drug plan, you get 3 months, really 9 weeks, October 15th through December 7th, okay?
So here's
When
going to
you
be a
are
question you guys are going to get a lot. I have a Medicare Advantage. When can I come off of that? Because I don't like it anymore. And the answer, Jess, and how you answer that would be,
you can come off of that. You can transition over to original Medicare as of January the 1st. So we can go ahead and start the process of getting you approved onto a new Medicare supplement and a prescription drug plan that will take effect January 1st of 2026.
underwritten or not underwritten?
Underwritten.
Okay, Nathan, you had a question. I saw your hand up.
I think you just answered it. It was going to be, can you cancel an Advantage plan anytime? Like if I sign you up for a Plan G tomorrow, can you cancel your Advantage plan tomorrow?
No. So Advantage plans run 12 months. Okay. So you can get off of an Advantage plan only during annual enrollment or open enrollment. Okay. So October 15th through December 7th and January 1st to March 31st, and go back to original Medicare with a supplement in that window. Okay. The only other time for that is if there is a special enrollment period. Usually those are tied to natural disasters, somebody moved, something along those lines. Then you can make some adjustments there. But typically, you are looking at needing a January 1st start date for a supplement if they're coming off of an Advantage plan.
So to do right by them, then you should, if I sign you up for a Plan G, I should start it on whenever that enrollment period is so that they can cancel it. I mean, I guess if it's free though, it really doesn't matter, but if they're paying for an Advantage plan, we won't want them paying for two.
So they cannot have legally both an Advantage plan and the supplement at the same time. Okay. So if let's say that they say, okay, and this is Nathan talking, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's say that they say, look, I want my new Plan G. To do right by them, that Plan G needs to go in effect right now on January 1st. Okay. And the reason why is if they have both a supplement and an Advantage plan, the doctor's office is going to make them use the Advantage plan regardless, because they cannot enroll in the Part D plan that goes with it until January 1st. Well, they can enroll in it, but it won't go into effect until January 1st, which means that if for whatever reason they pulled out of that Advantage plan, they would lose credible drug coverage and then get hit with an enrollment penalty. So you don't ever want to do that. You've got to get them to January 1st, and they couldn't use it anyway until January 1st. When you do that, though, the thing that you want to make clear is with all of our carriers, if you are signing up for a Medicare supplement now for an effective date of January 1st, 2026, their bank account is going to be drafted that premium amount, whatever it is. Okay. And so what I always tell them is that is consumer protection law. That is because you are going through underwriting. All right. So you are going to prepay January. And if between now and January 1st, you have a massive stroke and you're laying in intensive care on January 2nd, you cannot be denied coverage because you have been accepted and you have paid your first month's premium. That also means you will not owe your second premium until February. Okay. So always make sure that they know that and are aware of that, because even though it's not going into effect until January 1st, if they're leaving an Advantage plan, it is still going to hit their bank account when they're approved.
Okay, just to make sure I'm understanding that right, is basically they're being underwritten at the time of when you submit the application and being approved, and they'll get withdrawn that January premium, but they won't actually have the coverage until January.
That is
if something
correct.
happens
So it is a
between then, they won't
prepayment.
lose coverage.
That is 100% correct.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Eric?
Jessica covered it. I was just going to address Nathan's question about the scheduling of premium payments and how the mechanics of that flowed through, but Jessica did an excellent job.
Cool.
Thank you.
Nancy, Kidd, Cigna, Mutual of Omaha, Aetna, they have med subs through those carriers.
What if they were on a Medicare supplement and like they're in their 80s and someone put them on Advantage and they have a whole host of health issues, but they just started January 1st. They want to go back to a supplement. This is a client that I have. The reason she was paying almost $500 a month for her Medicare supplement, and that $0 premium looked pretty good. And I think she needs to go back on a supplement, and it looks to be like around 190. That's a guaranteed issue though, right? No.
It is not. Okay, so it can't hear me. It can be a guarantee issue, right? If and only if when she moved over to the Medicare Advantage plan, that was her first time enrolling in a Medicare Advantage plan. If she had an Advantage plan when she turned 66 for a year, and then she went to Med Sup and she's been with Med Sup and now she went back, that guarantee issue right goes away. The guarantee issue right though is only applicable to her old Medicare supplement that she had, meaning the carrier has to take her back and they will take her back at that old rate.
Oh man. Okay.
But now what
And here's
she
another
can
thing
do,
is some states have birthday rules. So check your states, on those birthday rules.
We're gonna get that in January. Her birthday is December 3rd. So how do you determine that rate when you're in? She had Mutual of Omaha. So you go in and you're like plugging in all of the information. How do you determine what that rate would be?
I would call Mutual of Omaha with her on the phone.
Okay.
That's what I would do on that one. And let them give you the rate.
Okay. Thanks.
The other thing that you can do on that one, Julie, I'll tell you, is you can also, because if I'm going to be honest with you, at $500 a month, I would not personally recommend that someone stay on a Medicare supplement. All right. Because at $500 a month, this is what you got to look at. You're talking about $6,000 a year in premium. Okay. That she is guaranteed to pay. Then you've also got to look at what her drug premium would be plus drug prices. Usually in that instance, you're looking at least, let's call it $50 a month on the low side on a prescription drug plan. That's another $600. And then let's conservatively say it's $1,000 on medication costs. So now she's guaranteed to spend ballpark $7,500 in premium and drug prices, and that's not even including the $288 deductible. I would very strongly encourage her to sit down and look at a Medicare Advantage plan. And it sounds like maybe what happened is one of a couple things. Number one, they did not do a good job of making sure her doctors were in network. Number two, they did not do a great job of going over co-payments, out-of-pocket costs. So she felt blindsided by that. Because very often, unless she's going to be in the hospital quite a bit, realistically, she's really kind of going to pay either way, right? Because most of those max out of pockets are 5,000 to 9,000, 7,500's right in the middle. So you can kind of look at it, but I would tell her she may be better served by a Medicare Advantage plan. And to Jeff's point, some hospital indemnity coverage, cancer coverage, if you can get it, all that kind of good stuff. But I don't know. It's very rare for me to recommend that somebody stay on a supplement if their premium is up over about $400 a month.
And I want to say
300 if I'm
this,
being honest.
and I want to say this, when you are running across people with a Medicare Advantage plan, be cautious and dig deeper into it, because what about if they have a dual plan, which is Medicare, Medicaid? Don't take them off of that. What about if they have a chronic or a DSNP? You know, like, careful when you're digging into it, because there is all multiple avenues on the Med Advantage that could be beneficial to that person. So
Yeah, she's had cancer twice and heart attack, stroke. She's had it all. So it is nice to have that coverage of a supplement and know that everything's covered. But I think Jess is right that it's like, it's gonna suck either way.
yeah,
you're paying, it's 2 quarters one way and 50 cents the other. Like it's kind of where she is in terms of premium. It almost doesn't matter. She's just going to be out of pocket the money.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that, but I've told customers before, as they get older and they're healthy, I'm like, look, right now you're healthy enough, but your premium's absurd and we can't get it lower. Getting a lower premium for somebody in their 80s right now sometimes means like a $300+ And I'm like, take 150 of that and put it into an account that's earmarked, and you're still saving money. And, you know, if you're paying out a few deductibles here or there, it's not a big deal. And a lot of them understand that and get that right away. But I would do the math with her on that.
So Jess, when you're sitting down with a client, someone who's turning 65, what does that discussion look like? I could do this or I could do this. Like,
are we talking general senior market, or are we talking like a Texas retired educator?
No, just go general senior, because I think everybody's going to be different. So that'd be a better avenue for them.
So if somebody's turning 65, like let's pretend that you're turning 65. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you my favorite joke, because I'm like, oh my gosh, happy birthday. That's so exciting. You get Medicare. And they always cringe. And I say, look, you got your driver's license at 16. You got access to cigarettes and porn at 18. You got alcohol at 21. You probably had kids in your late 20s. And now you get Medicare to fix all the problems that all that caused. And they always laugh and they're like, yes, that's a good way to look at it, you know. And I immediately go to the rock, paper, scissors analogy. I walk them through, hey, do you have your red, white, and blue Medicare card? Yes. I ask them to go and get it, mostly to make sure that it has everything that it is supposed to have. Okay. I want to make sure A and B are there. If B's not there, I ask them if they are still working, right? And we'll have the conversation of, if you are still working, you do not need to enroll in your Part B yet. If they tell me, oh no, I'm actually going to retire from everything. Okay, cool. Then I want to make sure that you get enrolled in your Part B. So you're going to want to call Social Security and make sure that your Part B gets tacked onto this. And then I'm going to walk them through what their options are. Okay. And I'm going to talk about Medicare Advantage, and I'm going to talk about supplements. And I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of each one in terms of, this has low copayments, right? Medicare Advantage has, low premiums, higher copays. Medicare Supplement has a higher premium, lower copays. And then I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. Number one, do you travel a lot? If they tell me yes, I'm going to ask if they're traveling internationally or if they're traveling more domestically. If they tell me that it's domestic travel, but by the way, they're setting up camp in some of these places, like I've got some RVers, then they tell me that they're sometimes setting up camp for 2, 3, 4, 5 months at a time, then I'm going to recommend a supplement, especially if they're doing a lot of foreign travel, okay? Because the travel's better, or the travel benefits to that are better. I'm also going to ask them, hey, do you have a separate dental vision? Are you looking for a plan that has dental vision included? And it's not really important to me. Okay, what is important to you? Ask the question. Are they looking for low out of pocket, or are they looking for low premiums? Because I have some people who tell me, I'm paying for my grandkids' college. I just need the lowest premium that I can get. And I understand that that puts me at risk, but I want the lowest premium that I can get. Well, okay, that's what we're going to go do, right? I also have people who tell me, I want the absolute hands down best coverage. When they tell me that, that does not mean that they need a Medicare supplement or a Medicare Advantage or whatever you think is the best plan. Your opinion on what is quote unquote best is utterly and completely irrelevant. The question then is, what does that mean to you? Right? What is the best plan for you, Jeff? When you say, I want the best, what does that trigger in your thought? It covers absolutely everything. I have no out-of-pocket cost, or this is a super low premium. And so those are the questions kind of that I always ask. And it is a back and forth conversation. It is not a, this is a one size fits all kind of program.
Cool. Any questions? It's a lot.
Yes.
But it is truly the foundation of everything we do here at AMBA. It opens up the doors to cross-sell opportunities and all that. So if you're not 100% familiar with Medicare, I would take the time to dig deep over the next couple days and become that expert. Anybody else? Going once. Going twice. All right. Well.
And the next time we do this, I will
Oh,
have
John's got
my
Got him. John.
Yes. So I'm just starting here. So my first thought is to maybe get this slide deck, or what's a good resource for me to have other than Medicare.gov to get myself more familiar with this information.
There is, I call it the Medicare Bible, and it is the Medicare and You book for 2026. You can order a copy offline. I actually have a customer who lives nearby who gives me their book every year. That is probably the best place to start. I love that book. I carry it around in my briefcase with me to go over everything. I just always use it.
Which book is that again?
Medicare and You. Yep.
You can get a PDF version of it online. The 26 version's out.
Okay.
Honestly, another way is ChatGPT. Google in there, like, explain Medicare 101 to me. Explain Medicare supplements to me. It'll build out stuff for you. I mean, you have to maybe some of the stuff cross-check it, make sure it's factual, but check the AI is a good resource to put all that together for you.
A good prompt
Medicare.
too for a good prompt for that, Jeff, too, is make me an expert in.
Yeah.
Like a good prompt for ChatGPT. That's what I
Yeah.
usually do.
Great.
And I think that goes with any product. Make me an expert in
John,
long-term
where
care.
are you located?
I'm in Dripping Springs, Texas, just outside of Austin.
Okay, so another good resource for you, you'll want to Google TRS Care Highlights. We work with a lot of Texas retirees. And so the big thing here to be super familiar with is the TRS Med Advantage through United Healthcare. And who's your manager?
Brad Francione.
So yeah, ask Brad for that. And if he doesn't have it, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to send it over. But you definitely want to be intimately familiar with TRS healthcare and TRS care guidelines and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, great.
Nancy, to answer your question, if you run across somebody that's wanting a Medicare Advantage plan, reach out to your FML. They can direct to whoever's on their team that's AHIP certified, or email Devin Kennedy, who's over the Medicare department here, and she'll get it to a licensed agent in your area. Cool. All right. Well, everybody have a great day. Thanks for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. I will get the recording out with the slides and all of that. So, perfect. Thanks.
Thank you.